Hi, this is Larry Dorff, Math Curriculum Consultant for Big Ideas Learning. And this is the second video in the series entitled How to Use the Dynamic Assessment Resources DVD, specifically the ExamView Assessment Suite. What we're going to do in the second video is take a look at a quiz that we've already created in ExamView and work on editing that quiz. Here's a quiz that I created in ExamView using the Select While Viewing function. It's a quiz on sections 1.1 to 1.3, and you can see that it has several sections to it. First, the multiple choice section, and as I scan through, you'll see that I've selected different parts that are multiple choice questions, then just one numeric response question, a few short answer questions, and a couple of extended response questions. After you see the questions, the next thing you'll see are your answers. This is your answer key. And as I mentioned in the first section, if you would like to clean up this answer key a little bit, because some of the information here you may or may not need in your answer key, I will show you how to do that in the third video on how to format your quiz tester worksheet. So let's go back up to the beginning of the quiz and let's take a look at some things that we can do to edit this particular quiz. First, I'd like to show you how you can remove a question that you don't want on your quiz. So let's say that question number 3, if you don't like this particular question, click on it. You'll see that when it's highlighted, it'll be colored in a beige color. And then down here at the bottom, just click delete. It'll ask you, do you want to remove this question from the test? And you can click yes. And then what it will do is it'll renumber the other questions in that series. So again, if I go down here and I don't like number 6, I highlight it, click delete, say yes, and then it will remove that question and renumber the other ones in the series for you. You can also reorder the questions. So if you wanted 6 to come before 5, you can change the order of the way that you want those questions to appear. I'll show you how to do that here in just a moment. At the top of the screen, you'll see there is a header with name, class, and date. If you'd like to edit that header, come up to the test button at the top of the screen and then click down till you get to headers. And then we'll click the first page header, and here you can see the name, class, and date is currently in the Times New Roman font with a font size of 11. So instead of class and date, maybe I'd like to change that to period. So I could type period here, put a line, and then if I want to, I can take this header, I can change it to a different font if I like Palatino better, and a bigger size if I'd like. And then when you're finished, you're going to click record. Record is like a save button. So the record is to save that header for the first page. You notice you can also save as default, which means for all future tests, your header will look exactly like the one that you see here. So once you're satisfied and you've made the changes that you like, just click record and you'll see now that we have our new header at the top of the screen. Now I had mentioned to you that you can change the order of the questions that you see here, and to do that you're going to come up to the question tab at the top, question, and then you're going to go to reorder. Now under reorder you'll be able to move some of the questions around, but you need to keep it within the directions that go along with that. So where it says narrative here, those are a set of directions that these two questions go with. So we're not going to be able to move that question down here because the narrative is up here. But if I want to have question 2 come before question 1, I can move them and it will renumber it once I say OK to this. The same thing here, I can take question number 9 and move it till it's above question number 7, but I can't move it up here where 5 and 6 are because that has a different set of directions that go along with it. Also, I can't take a short answer question and move it so that it's in front of a numeric response question, because right now I have the program set up so that questions appear first multiple choice, then numeric response, then short answer, then other. When we format the test, I'll show you how you can change that so that the items do not appear in that same way if you choose not to have them appear. If you'd like them to be more random, you'll be able to do that as well. So I'm going to click on OK, and now those changes that I made as I reordered my problems now appear here on my new quiz. You may or may not have noticed this, but next to each of the questions there is a little gray icon that looks like a calculator. It looks very similar to this icon at the top of the screen, which is called Calculate Values icon. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this question, and I'd like you to notice what happens if I click on the button next to it, which is the toggle button. As I click on it, you will notice that the problems now, as they were originally, or I should say as that problem was originally multiple choice, it is now down here under numeric response. What I did was I removed the multiple choice distractors from that particular problem. And I can do the same thing with any of these problems. I can take a problem that has a little red dot next to it, click on the toggle by modal switch, and when I do that, that problem automatically bumps down to a short answer question, so then it becomes in the short answer section. Now I was talking to you a little bit about that gray icon there, and that gray icon goes along with the calculate values problem. So if for instance, if I highlight problem number 2, it's currently saying that the question is B plus C, and these are the 4 choices to insert for the answer when 9 is replacing B, is replaced B with the 9, and C is replaced with 10. Now watch what happens as I click the calculate values problem. I'd like you to pay attention to problem number 2, and you'll notice that the problem has changed its multiple choice distractors. Sometimes the actual problem itself will change. Like for instance, this one says the product of 6 and 11. Now it's the product of 7 and 16, and 7 and 9, and so on. This problem, if I look at the calculate values, that's changing to a different type of problem, similar in style, but a different problem to the one that you see there. So if I want my students to practice many of those kinds of problems, I can duplicate this question. And I can duplicate in a couple of ways. While the problem is highlighted, come up to the question button and click on duplicate. And you'll notice what it did was it created another problem similar to that problem. And I can continue to do question duplicate, or you will notice I could have used my keyboard and did the Control D button as often as I want. Also, if you have a right click ability on your mouse, you can right click and duplicate right there. And so I can create as many versions of that problem as exists in the program, because these problems are what we call algorithmically generated. And they have a formula that allows you to create multiple instances of that same problem. And these would be any problem that you see a little gray, looks like a calculator symbol next to it. That will let you create more problems like that particular one if you choose to. The vast majority of the questions in the Big Ideas Math ExamView test software program are problems that are algorithmically generated. Now let's say you'd like to edit a particular question on the quiz that you've just created. To do that, you just take a question that you're interested in editing and either double click on it or highlight and click the edit button. A separate box will open up. At the top of the box it tells you that this is a multiple choice bimodal question. So remember, bimodal questions, if you take the multiple choices away, you can still answer the question. So the question here is B plus C, and the students were given 4 choices in the direction, or I'm sorry, were given the values in the directions that B is 9 and C is 10. So if I wanted to, I could edit this. I could add another variable to it. They were given an A, B, and C, so I could say plus A if I wanted to. Remember, if you change the question, you need to also fix the answers to these. So you can put different answers in each of these spaces. and make sure that you always include the correct answer. Now if you go back to the question's directions, you'll see that A is 5, B is 9, and C is 10. So 24 is the correct answer, and I'm going to put that here for C. So I'm going to make 24 the correct answer, and then I need to make sure that I click on the radio button so that it identifies 24 as being the correct answer. There are also some things I can do to a problem. I can add more directions to it. I could insert a graph or an equation from equation editor if I wanted to. The graphs, you have a choice. You can bring in a Cartesian graph, a polar graph if you should want to use that, although we typically don't see those in middle school. And we can also incorporate a number line. So for instance, if I was going to bring a graph in, now of course this problem doesn't lend itself to that, but if I did want to bring in a graph, it'll ask me now to take a look at the axes and make a decision as to how thick I want the lines to be. Do I want graphs to go with them that have the vertical and horizontal lines? Do I want to show the tick marks? How do I want to start it numbering by 1s, 2s, 3s, and so on? So you have a lot of choices as to how you want to set up that Cartesian graph. When you're finished, you'll click Apply, OK, and that'll bring that graph into your problem for you, as you can see here. When you're finished with the choices that you've made and the editing, you're going to click Record. I did want to also show you down here that your correct answer is listed here. There are 4 choices that the student can pick from, and this you can modify or adapt, especially if you're interested in taking a quiz or a test or a worksheet and adapting it for a special needs population. You could change the choices from 4 to 3 or 2. If you're feeling like you want to add extra choices to it, you could make as many as 8 choices for that question. And so you can set that up as much as you like. You can also click Info and get some information as to what level of difficulty this question is. So under Webb's Depth of Knowledge, this is a level 1 difficulty question. It's standard 6.EE.2C, your Common Core standard. What keywords would help you find this question in a search? It's knowledge level on Bloom's taxonomy, and it's related to problem number 16 in the pupil addition exercise set for this section. And it's worth 1 point, which you can change as well if you like. And then if you want to make it worth more than 1 point, you can do that right here. And then click OK. And then remember, as soon as you're finished, click Record. And now that extra information that you brought in is now in your problem. You can see the A is here, the choices that I picked with C being correct. And of course I brought a Cartesian graph in, but I really didn't need to do that in this particular problem. Now, something important to keep in mind when you edit a question in ExamView and you do it within a quiz the way we just did it now, it will not save your edited question for future quizzes. If you want to save your question for future quizzes, you'll need to come up to the File menu and come down to Switch to Question Bank Editor and save your question there for future use. For the purposes of this particular demonstration, we're not going to go to the Question Bank Editor, but I just wanted to remind you once again, if you were to edit a question here in a quiz the way that we just did, it will be saved for this quiz, but not for future quizzes. If you want to save your edited question, come to the File menu and come down to Switch to Question Bank Editor to make that save. Now, once you've created a quiz, test, or worksheet in ExamView and you're satisfied with the editing, you can get a summary of the information that appears on this quiz, test, or worksheet. Come up to the top of the screen and pull down the Test menu and go to Summary, Test Summary. And the summary will tell you, first of all, in the question bank, you have 3 lessons that you've chosen, and these are the number of questions that you've chosen within each lesson, and the number of points that it's worth. Remember that one of them we changed the point value from 1 point to 2 points. That's why you see 8 points even though there are 7 questions here. It also tells you by question type. You have 13 multiple choice, 1 numeric response, 6 short answer, and 2 extended response questions. And it also gives you a compilation of which standards were covered underneath this quiz and how many questions that you covered underneath that particular standard. It does remind you, however, that some questions are correlated to one or more than one, I should say, standard. They're all correlated to at least one, but some questions might be correlated to more than one standard. And so you may see that there's more numbers listed here than the number of questions on the test, and that's the reason for that. I hope you found this video helpful. Again, this was the video on how to edit a quiz tester worksheet using ExamView for Big Ideas Math. In the next video, we're going to take this quiz and we are going to format it. So we're going to take a look at things such as how to change the number of columns, how to change the fonts and point values and so on. So please check out video number 3 on how to format your ExamView quiz tester worksheet. Just a reminder, as you're working with the ExamView test software, if you have any questions or need help with your Big Ideas Math ExamView test generator, you can go to our website, www.bigideasmath.com, and at the bottom of the screen you have a couple of choices. You can click Technical Support, and under Technical Support you'll see that there is a place to email us or call us with your questions about the generator or any other technology that you're working with. And you'll also notice that there is a quick start guide for the ExamView test generator, which will explain many of the things that I'm going over with you. So if you need some specific help, you can always go to the technology support, technical support section on the Big Ideas Math website. Again, that's at the bottom of the screen, technical support. You can also click Contact Us, and you can either, again, email or call us with any questions that you have about your ExamView test software. Well, I hope this video was helpful, and please check out the next video in the series, how to format the ExamView quiz tester worksheet.